Well, welcome to Forgotten Liberty Radio, the voice of liberty in the Central Valley. I am Matthew, technical producer of the show. I'm actually out this episode, so I'm going to pass it off to the folks in studio here in just a second. But before we get started, I want to tell you about our sponsor. It's Howard Training Center's 26th Annual Crab Fest fundraiser. It's taking place on February 7th and February 8th. Tickets are $50. It starts at 5:30 both nights. It takes place at Whitmer Hall, 1428 Stoneham Road, Modesto, California. These will all be in the description of the podcast below. Make sure you check it out. For more information and to purchase your tickets, you can call 209-593-5621 or go to howardtrainingcenter.com. That's 209-593-5621 or howardtrainingcenter.com. Thank you so much to Howard Training Center for sponsoring our show. And now I'm going to turn it over to the folks in the studio. Guys, take it away.
Well, today I think we're going to be talking about the covered California mandate. And John has some interesting ideas and or a lot to share about that. So let's go, John. Oh, anyway, welcome everybody. Hi, everybody. Sorry. John's here.
Well, we
Pat's
all know
here.
who's here.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's
here.
always here.
Yeah, here we go.
Aaron.
Regular people, usual people.
Aaron,
Okay.
Pat, everybody,
Right.
Matthew will have to chime in from the nether regions. Matthew's not with us at the current time.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, we just had a little bit of an interesting conversation about whether or not this is whether or not Trump repealed the Affordable Care Act. So do you want to go into that, John?
The mandate, actually.
The mandate, excuse me.
Trump actually can't do anything, okay? First, we have to understand the president only gets to sign or veto bills.
Correct.
No tax reform was done by Trump. Trump doesn't do that. He only approves or disapproves.
Well, I would thought that he did an executive order, no?
Okay, so we've already on this show talked about who executive orders apply to. So what have I taught you in the past about executive orders?
Refresh my memory.
Oh my God!
If the president, as the chief executive officer of the United States, says that we will not enforce the individual mandate
Uh-huh.
or the tax penalty, does that make it so? Doesn't necessarily make it so. All he's doing is telling the executive level department not to enforce that piece of the legislation.
That's right. Okay, yeah. That makes sense now. Yeah.
But since that was in the legislation, and they did away with it during the tax reform, because remember, the Supreme Court said it's constitutional because it's a tax, a penalty, it's a tax,
Right.
and Congress has the ability, the enumerated responsibility to levy taxes. That's why they upheld Obamacare, because the penalty was the portion being fought. Okay, so in the tax reform, we have to understand that Congress, the House and the Senate, and then with approval of the president, had removed the individual mandate penalty. When people say Trump did something about the individual mandate, Trump did nothing. Trump can't do anything without the approval of Congress.
Correct.
And that's the House and the Senate.
Correct.
So this executive order, even if given, it just tells an executive agency what they will or will not enforce.
Okay.
It's not binding on the people. It's only binding on the executive level agency.
Well, that makes sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, people put too much emphasis in these executive orders. They're not law. They're just direction to employees on how to behave.
Okay.
Yeah, because they are still if you are not enrolled within this certain amount of time, which I believe is January 31st or 30th, and if you're not enrolled, you still can be
All this
Go ahead.
this deal we're talking about is a state of California individual mandate, right? It's only for the state of California.
It is only for the state of California.
We have now.
Correct. There you go.
That have probably received from the Franchise Tax Board a letter to the effect that these individual mandate penalties are coming for taxes, right? The issue for me is not necessarily that the state legislature passed an individual mandate. Now realize I don't like it. I'm not in agreement with it, but that's their prerogative. I always argued there's no enumerated responsibility on the federal government's part to engage in healthcare. And while that's still the case, the state, because of the 10th Amendment, has the right to engage in any industry they want. So, they've said that we will purchase an insurance project or product or we'll be fined. But they've done this in English and Spanish in official communication from an official state agency, and we've also learned in the past from me that there is a California constitutional clause on English as the official language, and that the state must promote the English language. So when the state sends out things in Spanish from the Franchise Tax Board, that's a violation.
Yes, it is. It is a violation of the state constitution.
Right, and the legislature's not going to hold the Franchise Tax Board accountable.
Right.
No, but if we don't buy a product that they think we should be fined if we don't have.
I wonder how that would hold up in a court of law.
Why? I just told you it's
been through
the state legislature can make any rule they want.
Okay.
They can regulate us as state residents any way they choose.
Court of law is what I meant with if you could argue that it's not constitutional.
But it is.
Yeah.
You can't argue that the state doesn't have the authority to levy taxes on state issues.
Okay. So that's
right.
Yeah. So there wouldn't be any legal action that anyone could take.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Not in my opinion anyway.
I think now that you've cleared that up for me, I don't see that it would be either.
But here's the problem. It gets back to what can 21 senators, 40 members, and one governor sign into law, pass and sign into law. Anything they want. We have no control over our state legislature.
And that is because
we can't. Yeah, because we're not adequately represented, right?
Correct. Yes.
This too gets back to the initiative and the petitions that we're circulating. We have zero control over our government.
We do. We are zero. Absolutely none. We are. For lack of a better term, I think we're pretty close to socialism in that case. If we don't have the representation we deserve, should have. Almost there. Almost there. I'm sorry. I just have to say that. Whether or not you agree with that or not, I do. Yes.
Well, it's the policies that they're putting in place may be socialistic, but it's doesn't have any bearing on, the reason our system is what it is isn't because of any type of government structure. It's because our Constitution limits it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to change. Socialism did not create the limits on the size of the Senate or the Assembly in California.
Oh, no. That's
right?
true. That was
so we have to take that into consideration.
Yes.
While it is we're going to charge you money if you don't do this, so that we can provide a service for a different, political class of people. In that aspect, it's definitely a social experiment.
Well, I think so. I think when you lose your ability to tell your government what to do, I think that would almost be the ideal definition of what socialism is. Even though, I mean, anyway. So, but I digress. Okay, so let's get back to what is happening in California. So, we have. Oh my gosh, we have our SD card is saying that we have limited space remaining here. I must have put the wrong one in.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. We lost the Bluetooth connection.
I can hear you.
We can hear you. Okay, we had a little technical glitch there for just a second. I hope Matthew can splice this together. But we're talking about Covered California, what it means to us, what's going on. John, you were talking. I had said something about it. I wanted to bring us back to what we should be doing here in California. How this affects us as a population. What are the problems? Go ahead. Go.
The first problem is the Franchise Tax Board is a state agency. Okay, mm-hmm. Somebody in that agency has to know. The state constitution says, first of all, you're not supposed to promote any other language other than English, and they're sending communication in English and Spanish. I think that's it's a constitutional crime. First of all,
definitely a violation of that.
It's not within the spirit of the section and clause in the Constitution where it says we'll promote the English language. So that's the first issue. The second issue is the representatives, the Senate and the Assembly, they know that it's unpopular, the individual mandate. They know that's part of what Trump ran on. They don't care, which gets us back to the initiative. These people don't care.
They don't.
We're trying to put a limit on the number of constituents that a representative will represent so that they'll begin to care. Right? You get elected in this state to any state office, and you're almost, unless you're committing adultery, unless you're a pedophile, unless you're embezzling money, you're guaranteed your 12 years.
I'm not even,
and your term limits.
Those even at this point in time, unfortunately, those things won't even get you require an electability.
Absolutely, because nobody pays attention.
Right.
I mean, it says incumbent on there, and they just check that box because, why would we want to train somebody new? This guy's doing it, right? Well, these guys aren't doing it. This individual mandate, even the fact that the form went out, do you want to tell me that no representative has seen that this is going out in English and Spanish? Nobody's on Facebook saying this is a travesty. We should be honoring the law that is our state constitution and not sending official communication in Spanish. Now, I'm not against Spanish-speaking individuals. We talked about relatives of mine being Hispanic, and
yes,
and you know, unfortunately, my relatives speak English and probably aren't reading the Spanish side of that page. But it comes back to, regardless of whether the individual mandate is constitutional, they've already done something tied to it that's not. And that's the communication with us that says, well, if you're single, it's going to the penalty will start at $615. If you're married, it'll start at $1,350. If you're head of household, it'll start at this. That they make these rules in opposition to what the popular belief is, and they get away with it because it's only takes 21 and 41 to have a majority. That's the bottom line.
That's so the answer to. Go ahead. So.
And then, people tell us, well, it'll cost too much money to put these people in place. We talked about SB1 and the fuel excise taxes, $7.665 billion a year.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand exactly how much $1 billion is.
No.
We're not talking, a small amount of money.
It's 1,000 million.
$1 billion, is 1,000 million. So
incredible.
let's give these naysayers about this petition and this movement that we have as Americans Restoring Representation the benefit of the doubt. Yes, they're absolutely correct. It's going to cost more money. What would you estimate it would cost for legislator pay and say 5 staff members? I'll give them 5 staff members, all their supplies for the year, the space rent on the office they're in, all their furniture. I'm thinking we could do that and pay all those people and expenses for $1 million a year.
Oh,
so
yeah, I think so.
We better be able to, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because $1 million is $100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of money there to play with. So if we could do it for $1 million a year, and we're adding 325 representatives, well, guess what? That's still only less than a third of $1 billion.
That's it. That's right. $325 million.
Right. And one. I lost my train of thought. So one piece of legislation is 7,665,000, and we need 325 million. It's a drop in the bucket.
It is.
That
it's
is
a drop in the bucket. This is far less.
But the representatives bank on us not going to these numbers quickly in our head. They bank on people going, you're going to add 325. You know what kind of expense that's going to bring to the state? Well, guess what? SB1, $7.665 billion, and that's not money that we're paying in taxes through our 540 or whatever the state equivalent is of the tax, the 1040.
That money that you're talking about, John. Let me just say this real quick though. That money you're talking about that SB1 is bringing in. That's the money that's going into the coffers in Sacramento.
Right, but that comes directly out of our pocket.
That's right. Well, it just wasn't really clear that I was just thinking that it might not be clear to people. That's money that is being collected from us that goes into those coffers for them to do almost everything they want.
Yep.
Anything they want. And that is an outrage, and we should all be really outraged about that. And that's what our go ahead.
That's just SB1 that we're talking.
Yeah.
The state what do they call it? Fiscal analysis, whoever did that for this individual mandate, estimates that the penalties collected from the individual mandate is going to be $1.53 billion.
Oh my gosh.
$1.53 billion. They're estimating that people are just going to pay the fine and it's going to generate that revenue. You know why they do it, people? Because we're not going to spend $500 a month for something that is not insurance.
That's right. Yeah.
Smart people aren't buying this load of garbage they're trying to sell us.
They're not.
So they're banking on collecting $1.53 billion to fund a program, medical insurance for illegal aliens that we don't want.
Yep.
How do we stop that? We put enough legislators in Sacramento that they can't pass these laws with 41 and 21. We make it to where they have to have 251 adults in this state say, yeah, that's a great idea. Send it to the governor. I guarantee you there will be 1/4 of the bills passed. Right now they pass over 1,000 bills a year.
Yep.
And if we had 500 legislators in Sacramento, they would pass 1/4 of the bills a year.
Yep.
Not that we need those bills, but that's what it would be, because you're not going to be able to get 250 people in a city to agree on anything, let alone 250 people that represent 80,000 people and are beholden to those 80,000 people.
Wouldn't that be just fantastic? Oh.
And you look, we just come into this like we're going to talk about this debate that the Modesto Bee had. No, we're not. This is what's going on.
Right.
We're going to talk about something that ties to our pockets, because this stuff keeps happening and nobody's willing to do anything about it. Not even the so-called patriots are willing to understand that they're standing in the way of their own liberty. They're standing in the way of their own success because they're too motivated not to do anything out of fear for what it will cost. $7.665 billion right out of our pockets at the gas pump. If they cannot run this state on the money we generate in consumer taxes alone, sales tax, excise tax, now they're never going to be able to do it.
They're never. No. Now, the responsibility is for them to be able to use this money wisely has always fallen on deaf ears. We want them to be responsible, and they just won't do it. They can do it, but they won't.
Right.
They think they're being responsible. The problem is half of them, as Rush or Sean Hannity would say, can't balance their own checkbook, have no marketable job skills, but they smile at you real good.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
It's ridiculous. And you know, and when I say the people are in their way and their fears are detrimental to their liberty, I'm not misrepresenting the situation.
No.
The fears of the voter about how much things cost because of how manipulated things have become, because of the moronic numbers of representatives,
mm-hmm.
is what keeps keeps us in this perpetual cycle of damage, of socialism, of just violations against the Constitution.
Yes. Yeah. And where, how, and the initiative is exactly what would bring all of this back. It would bring it back to numbers that are conducive for better representation. That go ahead, John.
Yeah, the founders of this nation
exactly
sent to the states articles of the first. We've discussed that.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers in this petition are based off of that. At 40 million, our representation would be approximately 500 people, and the ratio would be 80,000.
Yeah.
Right. This initiative is based on principles from the founders of this nation, and honestly, if Articles of the First was recognized and was ratified, now we understand there's scuttlebutt one way or another whether the requisite states authorized it back then, or whether some agencies need to, or historians need to stand up and say, yeah, it was or it wasn't. That's not the case. It was sent to the states to decide whether they wanted, representation at a certain level. Well, that was 50,000 people. I've always claimed that we would have amended that, I believe, by now, and the ongoing system would be at 80,000 where we are, and 500 where we are with this petition.
Yeah,
it's just people don't understand our history. They don't understand what a republic is.
They don't.
They hear democracy.
Yep.
And they think that democracies lead to liberty. Well, they don't.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. I just have a quick little story. I was down in Quartzsite last week, and I was talking to a few people from Wyoming, and telling them about this initiative and how eventually this would be something really fantastic to bring it in back, or to bring into a federal onto the federal stage. And oh man, they were so excited about this. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have any of our cards, so I was able to email them all the information, and I believe that they have looked at our site already. So we'll see.
Well, there's 30,000.org and a lot of other movements trying to address this on a federal level.
Okay,
we have to fix California.
Yeah, we do. We need to fix California.
My goal is absolutely to fix the national representation as well.
Right.
And I'm positioning myself in this organization to do that to do the nation in the future. But we have to get California fixed.
We do.
Because the nation will follow.
Yes.
The reapportionment of the House, they'll add seats. As soon as we add seats in California, things will begin to change.
They will. As California goes, so goes
the nation.
Is that how that goes?
I think so, yeah. As California goes.
Sounds good.
So goes the nation.
Sounds like.
I've heard that before.
But we have an uphill battle. We absolutely have an uphill battle. We need help. We need those donations. People can make those donations at arr4all.org.
Right.
They can do it through PayPal. There's addresses on the website. You can send a check donation if you'd like. Do it that way. You don't want to do PayPal, but everybody needs to help
and
make this thing happen.
We need signatures on those petitions, and that kind of leads us right into, we are going to have our own going to have a booth at the gun show in Turlock. Aaron, would you like to speak about that?
Yes, that's going to be February 8th and 9th, Saturday and Sunday at the Code of the West Gun Show.
In Turlock, California.
Stanislaus County Fairgrounds.
We'll be there. So if you're interested, come on. We'd love to talk to you about this. I think that would be a really good. That's a good place to talk one-on-one, and definitely we'll have the petitions there for signatures as well.
Absolutely.
I just was going to use that. Good segue there, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
go ahead.
I'm okay wrapping it up right there.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Well, let me just add.
I
I'd like to just tell you, everyone, that we're going to have a special guest next week, and that will be Duke Cooper with American Veterans. And let me make sure I've got that right. He helps with the veterans who are homeless in Stanislaus County. He's doing some really good work with those groups, and wonderful man. And let me just make sure I've got that. So he is with American Veterans First. That is a 501c3, and he's got a lot of stories that he can tell you about what he's been doing and what they've been doing here in Stanislaus County. So that's next week. I just wanted to let everybody know what's going to happen with that show next week.
Yeah, that should be a good show.
I'm looking forward to having him on as a guest. He's a really good man.
Yeah.
Good man doing really good work.
Good work, yeah. Sure.
So, John?
And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It's all of us doing the work. It's not relying on the state or the federal government to do the work.
Absolutely.
Charity doesn't begin where they can tax us and send it to someone else to help them. Charity begins, in our homes, in our communities, and through our lending a hand to our fellow man.
There you go.
Very well put.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
The government has no place in charity, none whatsoever.
No, they don't. Well, let's wrap that up then. We'll wrap this up. If you have any questions, please give us a call, and Matthew will be giving you all that information. Very information. Good. So very good. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you, John. Bye. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Forgotten Liberty Radio. We'd love to hear your questions, comments, feedback. Get in touch with us, 209-214-8099, or email us feedback at ForgottenLibertyRadio.com or our website, ForgottenLibertyRadio.com. We'd love to hear your questions and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player of choice. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Play. Leave us a 5-star review if you can. We'd really appreciate it, and it helps our ratings. You can also find us on all the typical social media, Facebook, Twitter. You can also find us on Gab as well as BitChute. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Forgotten Liberty Radio, and we'll catch you next episode. Forgotten Liberty Radio is a production of Forgotten Liberty Media. The views expressed by the host or guests in any episodes may not necessarily reflect the views of Forgotten Liberty Media as a company.